Besides checking online reviews, there's a lot of questions that brides and grooms may have. Usually it's brides, though. Would you guys agree it's the brides that are interviewing you mostly?
90% of the time.
All right, cool. About what they need to know when they hire a professional wedding photographer. My name's Dan Nichols. MichiganWeddingDJ.com is my website, and I have been in the business for over 20 years, done over 1,000 wedding receptions, and north of 300 wedding ceremonies. With me today in Kelly Saunders' office here in Birmingham is a professional wedding photographer, Kelly Saunders, and this is Marcy Curtis, and Marcy's in Troy. And it's, what guys, KellySaundersPhotography.com?
KellySaunders.com.
Just KellySaunders.com, and it's Marcy Curtis.
MarcyCurtis.com.
All right, cool. So we're just going to get into it. We're going to dive into some questions that brides need to know and grooms need to know when they hire a professional wedding photographer. I guess I'm just going to bounce the first one off you guys right away, which is, how do you feel about online reviews?
I think they're great. I think that we don't get to select who you see. We don't get to select who posts. And so you go through, and the more you can read any anomalies, any of your faults will start showing up. All the things that people love about you, you'll start seeing a pattern, and the highlights really do form a nice picture of how we work, what you can expect the experience of working with us to be. And what the end result, how happy they were afterwards, because they're not posting until they've seen the stuff.
Right.
And so, you know, the feedback that you're getting really does illuminate any trends and gives you a really good idea of how you might, how that experience might be.
You feel the same way?
I do. I feel I can't even add to that.
Yeah,
it's like it's
well,
good. But with that, you still have to take a grain of salt, because if you do come across, and this isn't me, but if you do come across, like, let's say, a negative review, you want to make sure that the particular complaint was actually a realistic complaint, not
somebody going crazy off
right,
shirts,
right.
Yeah.
So, you know, because it rained on my wedding day, so my pictures
Oh,
were
yeah.
ruined.
Then they're mad
That's
at
really
everybody.
not your photographer's fault that it rained. So, you know, you have to make sure you read those but yeah, no, it's great.
Well, and so tying into that thing, as a DJ, I feel exactly like you guys do, where you start to find this consistency. Like, Dan was a pro from the second we showed up, or Marcy was a pro, or Kelly was a pro. You know, and you see the consistencies, and people are like, okay. And like you said, occasionally you might get a rogue, like, somebody didn't like this, or like you said, it rained on their wedding day.
Or the wedding guests got drunk, and so the DJ, people weren't dancing as much because it doesn't happen with Dan.
Yeah.
No, they boogie.
They totally do, but or something that it's not in your control.
Right, right.
You know.
So know that when you're looking through online reviews, it's like anything. I mean, sometimes people just have a bad experience. Maybe you walk into a restaurant on the wrong day. Everybody else is 5-star in the place 6 days a week, and you walked in that one time, had that one bad experience. But I know both of you guys, and by the way, that's why I'm talking with the two of them, is because they are pros and I'm comfortable referring them. And in transparency, I do refer both of them. They're on my website. So we're going to go ahead and plow through a few questions here. What's your style? I'll start over here with Marcy, then we'll go to Kelly. What's your style of photography? I know that's something people are curious about when they hire a photographer.
Right. I'm a photojournalist. My background was starting in newspapers. I worked for the Associated Press for quite a long time. And after having about 7 years of full-time pro experience, had to go to a wedding. A friend was called out of town. I went. I was dreading it, and it was fantastic. Happy people having the best time of their life, the most important day of their life, a happy story, a good story.
So what is a photojournalist style? What does that even mean?
Absolutely, and since then, I actually shot Kelly's wedding.
She did. So she is. When she
ago.
says she's the only true photojournalist that I know in the state of Michigan.
Yeah, it truly has the pedigree to earn her
Right.
chops
Yeah,
in
so
the
she
field.
knows what she's talking about.
And I didn't know that Kelly was my bride. So
Yeah,
we just
when
found out today. I was like, you remember?
Yeah, when I asked them to do this with me, here we are, and they were like, "Oh my God!"
Yeah, 10 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, it means you're really capturing. You have to spend a lot of time watching people. It's a very unobtrusive style. It's capturing the moments as they happen. And it's trying to get back to people. They're throwing this big party, they're enjoying their day, they don't want to be bossed around all day, they just really want to be able to be in their moment and have things happen spontaneously. That being said, for group shots, nobody stands where they're supposed to spontaneously in good light and looking good. And so those all have to be coached, stage. People need to be put where they are. So you sort of reverse your hat a little bit. You have to very quickly get everybody's attention, get through it. Most of my clients, that's the least favorite part of their day. They want it done efficiently, quickly. Half an hour later, we're moving on. And back to a more spontaneous, natural.
All right, so the pose shots is one thing, but yours like to have you for the more candid shots, is that?
Sure. Well, in family members, you're never going to get them that cooperative, that well-dressed, and on their best behavior, so it's great to honor that. And I know whenever you have a family gathering, it's great to be able to celebrate that and have that one picture that mom's going to put on her wall.
Right.
So, yeah. And Kelly?
Kelly, what's...
You know, I would not call my style photojournalistic, and I'm more of a traditionalist and more of a, I would say like a timeless, authentic, and it's hard to put a label on that. But a lot of photographers don't like the word traditional, but I don't have a problem with it. I like classic style photography, well lit, well composed pictures. And with that said, I do like a more, I try to do a more authentic style by, you know, I'll put my couples in great light, and then I'll give them things to do, games to play with each other, even bridal parties, so that we're kind of creating moments that occur, but, you know, it's more controlled. So, you know, where she's going to be more of a, you know, really, she's just really fine-tuned on getting those moments.
The little moments.
Yeah.
But I'm looking around here at Kelly's got her amazing artwork here.
Yeah, I do.
A lot of
moments. And I'm fun,
okay?
okay? There's a lot of fun happening.
There's a lot of fun.
She's fun too.
I do not see, sometimes every once in a while we'll be shooting at a place, a venue where there's a couple other, sort of having shared space with other wedding parties and wedding photographers. And I'll see a bride and a groom struggling with one pose as we come in and do our thing. When we come back on our way back in, they're still struggling with the pose where the bride is supposed to be looking, you know, look far away, and the groom and look haughty and look miserable. Oh, you're not looking miserable enough. And they're still stuck in the same darn pose. 5 minutes later, that's not Kelly.
No.
And I think of that as traditional.
No,
and that's just...
Well, no, and that's a lot of photographers and brides also when they say the word traditional. It's not stuffy traditional. It's, when I say traditional, I mean...
Contemporary.
I mean classic photography, like where if I have, let's say, a bride that wants to look thinner, like who doesn't? I know exactly what to do with her body, how to pose her, and quickly.
Oh, okay.
Like, let's get it done. I've been trained. I've taken, I've done a lot of work on that kind of stuff. So that's what I mean by that. You know, more.
Okay. Well, and then this leads me to another question. I kind of understand it, but I don't as a DJ. Is, do I choose a post-production style, or do you? So when a bride and groom come to you guys, what's this post-production piece?
That's a really interesting question. I honestly, a lot of, for example, 4 years ago, everything in post-production looked very yellow, inexplicably. To me, it looked like the 70s kind of style. Which,
that's what people wanted, you mean?
Yeah.
I think that's what they wanted. For me, what you see is what you get. Everything's fine-tuned to, the contrast is right, it's color-corrected, it's ready to print. But I don't do a lot of these things that I think label it into a 2014 look. But that being said, I mean, you do have to do post-production work. Everything you see on my website, if I'm doing my job correctly, should be pretty current trends to what I'm shooting. And I don't, if they want the super yellow, a new thing that's going around is I'm a natural light photographer, which means I don't know how to do supplemental lighting. It's the code word for it.
We could talk about that later.
Yeah. But to me, then, the post-production thing, you will not see any of those yellow filters. You won't see that on my website. So afterwards, if they came to me afterwards and said, "Could we have that done?" No, that's not my style. That's not my thing. So that's how I'm interpreting that question.
Yeah, I think for me, so post-production, no, you don't get to choose your post-production editing style. For me personally, because like what Marcy said, when I shoot, I'm shooting crisp, clean. What you see is what you get. If I'm doing any kind of effects, I typically do it in camera. If I'm doing double exposure, anything is happening. Most everything's happening in camera. Yeah. Rarely do I have to go into Photoshop, except for like to blemish removal or retouching kind of things. With that said, Marcy had touched on something where everything looks yellow, maybe blue, maybe green, these Instagrammy filter type things that you're seeing, and they are trendy, but I really do feel that when you see a lot of that, you're probably looking at someone that's not as experienced, doesn't know much about lighting, because I find that a lot with photographers that are trying to fix the stuff that they did wrong when they shot. So they said, well, let's turn the whole thing yellow and you know, it'll look better.
Or they've blown out the exposure, everything's too bright, and so they're fixing it by making everything just look bright.
By doing fancy editing when really it's not. It's not.
So I guess to wrap that around, to bring that in is have that conversation about what do you as a photographer do post-production.
Absolutely.
And then hire the one that fits with what you want. I mean,
your style.
Yeah, like I mean, I'm not going to go out and do a wedding that requires 6 hours of bluegrass because I don't know the music.
I love bluegrass music, by the way, guys.
I mean,
I play the guitar. I love it.
Okay, she's our.
How many weddings have you shot? Is that an important question? Do you guys think that's important? Yes? No?
I do. I think more importantly, how many years have you been in business? You know, what that kind of thing. You know, if you have someone that's been in business 20 years, they're going to shoot more than someone that hasn't. But maybe how many weddings do you shoot on average a year? Are you taking more than one wedding on a weekend? You know, because that's going to give you an idea of how, you know, if you have a Sunday wedding, does your photographer also have a Friday and a Saturday wedding?
Right.
So Sunday, they're going to be real tired. You know, they creatively, you'll get drained by Sunday. So that's a good question. But you should know on, you know, if they shoot 30 to 50 weddings.
Or, well, have you at least done 20 weddings?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's kind of where I'm headed.
Hopefully, you know, looked at their portfolio and you can tell that I know Marcy shot more than me because she's been in business longer than me.
Right, but how many weddings had you shot before you felt like super comfortable, I've got this?
I worked for other people first with weddings before I went on my own. So there is a path. You know, I mean, you shouldn't.
Yeah, at what point did you feel like you owned the craft?
After about 300 weddings.
After about 300. That's funny because I would say I feel similar to that. In fact, as a DJ, I've done over 1,000 now. I mean, I've been doing it for 20 plus years. I always feel like I'm learning something every single event. I'm like, oh man, or you relearn something. Like, I forgot about that.
Yeah, because you may not see the same-ish conditions for years.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly a rhythm and flow to it, but yeah, I stopped counting after 1,300. I thought it was getting to the obnoxious point.
She's pretty cool.
And,
I have not done 1,300 weddings.
But that doesn't mean I don't still get nauseous.
It's hard out.
If what you're doing doesn't make you ill, and even though for me, now shooting weddings is like breathing, this is what I do. It's my comfort zone. I've got this. It doesn't matter how awful your weather or how dark your beautiful cave that I'm shooting in is. It doesn't matter. I've got it. It still makes me physically ill before I go.
Do you actually get a little performance anxiety like that as well? I mean, that's what happens to me. I know
I do, especially if, because this is once, you know, you get married once, hopefully. And, you know, and that's a good question. With experience comes understanding of different
you got
lighting
more tools.
Yeah, I mean, you have more tools, but, you know, equipment always fails.
No, I just meant in general, like tools, like just ability. Tools, I can do something. The experience around you, you got, so I guess we feel like that is an important question at some level to know. It's just nice. There's an ownership, a sense of ownership of like, this guy's got this, been there, done that.
You can't mess up a wet. I mean, like you can't. It would kill me. So of course you feel nervous.
Right, and for experience also brings along. Plan A doesn't always go along. So you have to be able to, in your tool belt, go to B, C, D. You are going all the way through the alphabet if you need to, because you're going to make it work. This couple is counting on you
make it work.
To make it work and make it work with a big happy smile. And everybody's having a great time.
I always tell people, you can go back and you can sue your attorney or your doctor, but if your wedding got blown and it got totally screwed up, you can't go back. You can't fix that. You can't do anything. You can go back and change a contract or amend it, but you can't fix a screwed up wedding, photographically, musically, whatever, right? I mean, it's done, it's done.
So that brings, I think, one of the most important things that Kelly touched on is backup equipment. Because I'm sure you hear this all the time too, that somebody who has their single camera, if it breaks or they've, God forbid, pushed it off of the automatic setting and suddenly they don't understand how their camera works, because we hear this all the time, they're up a creek. And so, you know, if you don't have backup equipment and backup equipment, a little paranoia goes a long way for your equipment. And I'm sure Kelly's the same way, where you have it in quadruple.
Oh, absolutely. And now they make cameras where we have dual card slot ability. So you're always, you should never hire
two copies.
Wow.
And that's an important question I would ask my photographer. Does your camera shoot a backup as it's shooting the original? Because I wouldn't hire in today's day and age anyone that doesn't have that. Mm-mm.
You guys previously had said this question's kind of stupid. Nobody asks it, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Digital film, are you guys whatever? You don't even, it's just all digital, right?
It's all digital.
It's all digital. And like you said, if somebody wants film, because we're going to tighten this question up, if somebody wants film, they just need to explore that on the web and find that right.
There's people out there that shoot.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Will we be getting a contract? That's a question. I know that I have brides ask me that question. Do brides ask you that question, and do you think it matters?
No, there is a contract. Actually, mine I call an agreement. I have a lot of lawyer clients who laugh because it's all in English.
Sure.
It's not in legalese, but it basically says, hey, this is what you can expect from me, and this is what I can expect from you.
Got it.
And it is just an agreement. But if you didn't have something like that, because
it's a red flag.
It's a big red flag.
Yeah, never give anyone money without a contract.
So that's an important question.
Mm-hmm.
What's the backup plan if you are sick on my big day? Is that an important question?
That's a good question because Marcy and I actually have two different plans for different reasons. And as you're shopping, this is important to ask. So for me personally, I do work, I have a network of photographers that I work with. I've never missed a wedding, but that is something that I planned for. So we'll typically reach out to each other who's available. In my contract, it's written that I would tell you, oh, okay, I broke my leg the day before your wedding. So I would tell you I broke my leg, and you would get really upset, and I would say, here's who I have for you. You have the right to, reject or accept that person, and, then we'll go from there. But some people have, husband and wife teams.
Yeah, which my husband is a fellow photojournalist. Yeah. He also shoots weddings on his own all the time, perfectly capable. Yeah. We job shared for many years, so we are as close to each other's style and personality. Right. But I've missed one wedding. The dude sent me out 10 days after a C-section. Honey, you look fine.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah, no.
It would take a lot. But you're right. You break a leg.
So you guys got plans. So that's an important question.
Yeah, it's a good question.
And it's asked at just about every meeting.
Now, I'm going to add on to this one for a second. So I'm going to ask the question so people get some context around it. But how many hours of coverage does my package cover? People want to know that. And I think they should know that. And what's the process for staying later as it relates to cost? And now I want to give my DJ perspective on this for a second. I don't know how many times, this happens to me about 1 out of every 4 events now, and it drives me nuts. As a DJ, it bothers me. The most critical time of the evening, as I see it, is after dinner to the point that the dances actually get rolling. And what I mean by that is this. A lot of brides want to rush that. They just want to rush that. And sometimes what I find out is the genesis of their wanting to rush it is their photographer's got to leave at 8 or 9 or 8:30 or whatever it is. The worst time of any event to rush is right after dinner. And I know this intuitively from doing the weddings that I've done, is that if I rush that, what happens is it'll take me twice as long to get the crowd really going. If I do it when the time is right, when I know it's right, because I start teasing them with the music, bumping up the beats a little bit, that's the way I like to do it, because I want to make them almost to the point of frustrating where they want to dance, but I can't stretch it too long because then you lose their interest and they roll out the door. So it's a juggling act. It's a real fine act, and really it's a matter of, we're talking 15 minutes usually, but I don't like to rush that. So I would tell you that I love it when a bride or groom will have a photographer that's like, yeah, I'm on the clock till I'm done. Whether that's 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock doesn't matter. And some will say, well, yeah, they're going to have to go into an hour overtime after 8 o'clock. Mm-hmm. I'm like, shoot, man, I was thinking more like 8:15 because desserts haven't even come out yet or whatever. What are your thoughts on that? Kind of succinctly, what are your thoughts on that?
Okay, so my thoughts, because I feel like a client, if they buy a specific, set of a package, if it comes with 8 hours, if the time ends when it ends, that's when it ends, or they do have to go into overtime. Most of the time I'm talking with my clients though about a timeline, a day of timeline. And I am telling them when I see things running really tight, I'm like, listen guys, you have your dancing, dinner's over at 9, I end at 9:30, if things run late, you're really gonna be stretching it. It's up to them if they want to extend it or not. Most of the time they say no, they want to. So, we do, at least I have that conversation with them.
Yeah, and I know we've had this kind of, at the events we've had.
Yeah, so, it is and Dan is right, you know, it's important to, you know, to look at those things and understand that, but, you know, we are, you know, they have paid for a certain amount of time, and, you know, it's really not, it's not fair to us either, you know.
Right.
10 minutes I don't mind, but
Yeah.
it's not fair that we, you know, they paid for 8 hours, but they, you know, you still have to pay for that extra, you know.
And that's what I grapple with.
Because we've been working all day.
Yeah, and that's what I work, because I get that. And as my
Yeah.
fellow professional wedding vendors, I want to make you guys happy and get you out of there by 8 if 8's the thing, but it's like, dang it. It's like that difference between good and perfect sometimes. And you know what? At the end of the day, the net on it usually isn't that big a deal as far as a loss, but it's the subtle things that all add up to like a more perfect, if you will, wedding. And part of that is my thing around that timing. And
My suggestion is if you are running that tight, if you're doing your timeline, you're running that tight, you know, you should extend your time with your photographer ahead of time so you don't have to worry about it.
But yeah, I usually say if you're really on that bubble, write a separate check. If you need an extra hour, it literally costs an extra hour. There's no overtime upcharge. It's an extra hour. I say just put it in a separate envelope, have that ready to go, and if I need it, it's there. If you don't need it, I don't need it.
Yeah.
We'll rip it up. We're done. And so I'm not coming to you negotiating on your wedding day, which would be really crummy.
Yeah, it's
And I'm
really
not
awkward.
shorting you because
Yeah.
I get that you need a certain amount of time.
Yeah, well, squishy
Usually-
time, you kind of nailed it. Because and people say, well, what time is it? I don't know. It's a feeling. I get a feeling of like, okay, I'm watching the feet tapping under the table. I'm watching the people kind of like, they want to get going. And I'm teasing them on purpose. I'm bumping up the beats. But I know dang well they're not going to rush out right now because a piece of cake just got dropped.
Exactly.
And now the bride's cake goes to waste because we rushed that too.
Right.
Wait.
They never eat dessert.
Right.
They
And then the
almost
dessert doesn't get
yeah.
eaten and the cake's wasted. All right, so let's move on. Hey, and on that, because I did not include that in here, this question in the prep work with you guys is gratuities. I know as a DJ, for what I charge, I'm comfortable with what I'm getting. If a bride and groom want to give me a little extra, cool, that's fine. But I would never expect it, but it's always appreciated, but I just totally don't expect it. Where are you guys?
I think that's absolutely right. I mean, it is a service that we're providing, and I would say maybe 15-20% of the time I get gratuity.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's really appreciated. We are our own businesses.
Yeah.
And I always make a point of telling them, thank you, this is going to go toward a fun family activity that we wouldn't normally do on you. Thank you. But not expected.
Yeah.
Okay.
Same here.
All right. Does the package I'm considering have an assistant? Does that assistant double as a second shooter? How does all that work? I think sometimes brides and grooms have these questions and maybe they feel awkward asking you guys because they don't want to offend you or like, well, how does that work? You bring an assistant, but do they actually shoot? Or another company says, yeah, we bring a second shooter. Oh, well, so like, I think that would be nice to help them understand what that means in your world.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you kind of answered it. You know, that's I mean, that's a good question to ask. And also, will you, if you have an assistant that shoots or doesn't shoot, or a second shooter, will you separate physically? Meaning, are you sending one shooter to the groom with one shooter to the bride? Because that's something, I don't often do that. I don't separate when I do have a second shooter.
All right, and Kelly, you do take an assistant with you most of the time?
I do. 90% of the time, if I'm working over 8 hours, I'll at least have an assistant, but they have the option to hire a dedicated second shooter as well. But they take different
different roles.
Different roles.
Okay.
So
98% of my weddings are solo shoots.
Yep.
I don't have an assistant. I like to be nimble. That's part of that whole photojournalist sneaky peeky thing.
Yeah. You want to move.
I want to move and I want to be invisible. And when there's more than one of you, it's very difficult to be invisible. But also, on that second shooter thing, and I know Kelly shoots with a dedicated second shooter, I can add my husband in if need be. But ask for the credentials of your second shooter that you're paying for. To me, this has become a huge upselling technique.
Yes.
To add in a second shooter, and they are often somebody who is literally being trained on the job, who is not capable in any way, shape, or form of shooting on their own. I'll see things posted on the website. I'm looking for a second shooter, only responsible for cake photos and flower shooters, or must be able to shoot by themselves. Of course you should be able to shoot by yourself.
If you're a second shooter, you should be able to.
But a lot
so you want them to have some status as a second shooter. If it's an
you
assistant,
may not be able to name your second. You might not be able to ask your photographer that you're hiring to name your second shooter if they don't have a dedicated person. But you do want to know that they're hiring someone that is
a pro.
That is a professional if you're paying for that. Yeah, absolutely.
Quickly, how much is the deposit, and is it refundable if our date falls through?
I charge half now, and the deposit is if I as soon as you tell me you need it, you're canceling, I reopen that date. My calendar's online, so you can check it. If I rebook it, you get half of that deposit back. So you would lose a quarter of the fee.
Okay.
Because I ostensibly have closed that date and other people have contacted me
Yes.
looking for that date. I've said no to countless people while that date was waiting.
Right.
My retainer is $500, and no matter which collection, and the deposit is not refundable. If I can rebook it, I will refund it actually 100%. Sorry.
No, I always.
But
used
most
to.
of the time I
used to do
can't rebook it because, at least in my experience, I've had a few cancellations, but they're usually within 6 months of the wedding, and at that point, I've already turned away people. They found
Yeah,
for that
I'm in the same situation. Just to kind of I'm in the same place. I don't refund the reservation fee unless I book another.
Yeah, I mean,
event.
I'm happy to if I can rebook.
Yeah,
it.
I'm totally because I'd rather get the full thing. Actually, like I sometimes think like people think like, oh, you're just gonna sit home on my deposit.
No, we
like,
wanna
I don't
work.
want. I want to
No,
work. I
we
mean, like
wanna
that's
work.
Saturday night's the night I make my money.
You're still losing money because
Yeah.
you would count it on.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. If somebody says, oh, geez, that cost me $400. No, you cost me $1,500.
Right.
Is how is really.
Because we turned away people.
Right, because I turned away people for that date, and I feel bad. I was like salt in the wound, but so. All right. Question: if we book you, do we get you, or is there another person you send out? Important question or not?
I have tons of minions. Not kidding. No, you get me, of course.
Of course you get me.
Yep.
But I don't think that's necessarily true for the larger
Companies,
bundled packages.
No, absolutely not.
Right. No, yeah.
Okay. Does your fee include post-production editing of the images where necessary? How does that whole thing shake out? Is there a limit to the number of edits? I got to imagine sometimes people say, hey, we want more tweaks on these 20 pictures. And you're like, whoa, that wasn't part of our original conversation. So how does that shake out?
For me, it's very simple. There is a lot of post-production work, but they get 10 additional photoshopped particular edits if they want. I've had one bride ask for those.
Okay.
Nobody else has ever come back and asked for anything. And so if they need more, they can buy more, but they've never really.
But they don't take you up on it.
They don't take me up on it.
No, I think it's a really important question to ask your photographer what type of editing and retouching is included with what you've purchased, because the majority of photographers, myself included, we will do color correcting. And I do what I consider a light retouch. So it's also a good idea to ask your photographer to define what they consider retouching, because it's subjective. So a light retouch to me is I will remove minor blemishes from my bride and groom's face only. If there's like a scar removal, major acne, let's use spray tan and you're really orange, or your makeup artist, these are things that will cost additional, it'll cost you money in the end to, with me at least. And
there's a lot of time.
That's a lot of hand editing.
Yeah.
It's not like a real quick fix. Some things can be done globally, but it is very important to understand what finished product you will receive. Because if you want body modifications, these are requests I've gotten.
Oh yeah.
But anything can be done.
Like enhancements.
Yeah.
Stuff?
Well, maybe someone wants their arm thinned, or something like that. That's a common.
Okay.
Well, and for women at least.
I also think, Kelly, you're exactly right. There's a lot of discrepancy in what people call editing.
Right.
So
it's important to know.
But also, people say to me, and you hear this all the time, Kelly, oh, just Photoshop it. They don't understand what they're asking for, and that we can't make stuff up. Right. Maybe somebody can. I can't.
Yeah.
Right.
But also, I'm delivering about 12 to 1,500 images. Am I going to spot remove the bride's blemishes on every one of them?
No, most of the time you could do but I'm not a professional retoucher, and most photographers aren't. I actually use a professional retoucher in these instances. Mm-hmm. So, it's really important. A lot of the edits people ask for,
So you get a certain amount of them, but they're also a la carte if it gets beyond a certain number.
Yeah.
Same with you?
Yeah, because things like a blemish, I always say, well, you're a makeup artist.
Right.
90% of the time,
right.
99% of the time, the makeup artist is going to either take care of that or the makeup artist is the one who's going to create an issue, like
yes.
the shiny
Yes.
foreheads,
Yes.
Oh.
or by putting glitter on their faces.
Yes, stop with the glitter,
No
girls.
glitter.
Stop.
No glitter.
And,
Dewy,
and with
dewy
the
makeup.
contouring.
Yeah, dewy means greasy.
Yes.
That's you're going
Shiny.
shiny and greasy is dewy. That's how it reads under our artificial lights.
Yeah.
And you're going to be
Bad.
shot by artificial lights all night long.
Bad, bad.
So, yeah.
All right, we covered this one already in some previous conversation, but the question is simple. As gear goes, do you carry backup? I know you guys both do. A pro should. I carry backup for backup, just
Yes,
like even
right.
as a DJ
Yeah.
I do. What about, should they ask about lenses? About lenses, and the reason I ask this question is I've been to weddings before and I think, where did my bride and groom go wrong? I'm looking at the photographer out there, and it looks like it's this kind of almost just beyond a point and shoot. Mm-hmm. And I know they don't have any other lenses, and they're out there scurrying around the floor trying to get shots. And I think, is that even a question that, I mean, I think at the level you guys are at where your portfolios are online, your 5-star reviewed, your price points, you know, it's not bottom, you know, at that point, I think people can possibly presume. Would you guys say that's true?
It's such a hard question.
That's
because
a really hard question.
It doesn't even matter. Is that a question
most
anybody ever
people
even
don't
asked?
understand like lenses and
Okay.
equipment and stuff. And to be quite fair and honest, there's a new Fuji movement, which the cameras are really small. So you very well could be hiring someone with a small camera that, you know,
Is amazing.
That's
still
amazing. So I mean, you can't say that, you know, you know, those. But with that said, there are certain like lenses that are going to give you specific effects, and you know, they should have professional level lenses. And
Right, but do you think that's important to even ask them when they're looking at, like, if people ask me
If
that
they
question,
understand.
if they
I think
understand,
if they
right? Because like
understand
at
what-
my
I
level,
mean-
if somebody asks me about my gear, I'll be honest, I take a little bit of offense. I'm kind of annoyed. I'm like, look, I'm 5-star reviewed. I'm referred by the place you're talking to. I'm 20.
I would
20
ask
plus.
why they're
Like, there's
asking that. I mean, is it because they're also a photographer and they want to make sure I have,
Got
you
it.
know,
Sure.
you know, good gear, or you know, because if you don't understand what, you know,
Well, and I think it's one of those ones that shows up on the bridal list that you should ask about their gear.
Yes.
I don't want to talk f-stops with people.
Right.
It's like
Right.
having a great dinner at someone's house and then saying, you know, well, what kind of oven do you use? That's not a thing. But to me, you should be able to go in
Not a
and, well, you should be able to look at their portfolio, and if you see that everything looks the same, it's
consistent.
probably because it's only with one lens.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
you know, to be able to show this huge variety in lighting,
Yes.
in angles, you know, I look around here, and there's a continuity of crisp, clean styles that really make everybody look great.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not shot. They're clearly not shot with the same thing. It's not a kit
right.
look.
Okay.
But again, if you can't tell the difference in the photography, don't pay for it.
Don't pay for it.
Yeah, I love that question.
Yeah.
In fact, I'll underscore that. If you can't tell the difference in the photography, don't pay for it. And Marcy brought up a point when we had our pre-conversation with Kelly that's one of the things that she'll ask people is that, you know, like when they're like, how come you're $1,000 more, or you're $2,000 more? If you can't tell the difference, don't pay for it.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. I like that. That's a great
I love
response.
people that say, we've researched and we can tell the difference. We see the difference. I'm like, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then that's a
Yeah.
great.
That's
yeah,
awesome.
That's great.
Next question, important question. Yes or no? Will I be the only wedding you'll shoot that day?
God, I hope so. I would never shoot 2 weddings. Never, ever would I shoot 2 weddings in one day.
Yeah, I think that's
Crazy.
kind of a sign of a pro. I've definitely done 2 wedding receptions in a day as a DJ.
Yeah.
But now at 49, I'm like, hell no. I'm not.
The timing, I don't even know physically how you would
Well, I've done like
possibly.
an 11 to 2 like luncheon kind of wedding,
Yeah.
and then I've had another one 30 minutes away. It doesn't start till 6:30.
Yeah, no.
I think
yeah.
creatively, and this comes with, we were talking about, do you offer like over 8 hours or whatever. I think creatively, artists will hit a block at a certain point anyway. So, and there's some people that will sell them, we'll give you 15 hours of coverage. I can tell you after that 8th or 9th hour, they're tired.
Yeah, the story's not
creatively,
getting any
you know,
better.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, no way would I shoot 2 weddings.
All right.
No way.
And it's really physically demanding.
Oh.
I mean, the literally, I think 30 pounds is
Yeah.
the minimum
Oh,
that
yeah.
we're wearing all
Yeah.
day
Oh
long.
yeah, I know.
And we're jumping around and we're crawling on the ground and
Most photographers I know have really good relationships with their chiropractors.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
have one yet. I
Yeah.
need one.
I'm
Oh, you
amazed.
need one. I've gotten 4
There's-
years of chiropractic care because this guy keeps having children. And
Oh,
so,
yeah, I need one.
All right, so next question. And is it important or not? have you ever worked my venue before? Quickly, as a DJ, I would say, doesn't matter to me. I've done over 1,000 weddings. I've done them on boats, and I've done them in mansions, and I've done them in giant, it doesn't matter. I come prepared with everything I need to handle whatever the situation is.
Yeah.
Are you guys in the same boat, or do you think
Absolutely.
it's important?
Yeah,
It's
it
not
doesn't
important.
Okay.
In fact, sometimes I think if I'm stuck, quote unquote, going to the same ones over and over again, that creatively it feels a little stifling. Personally, if I'm at someplace new, it's like, oh, this is awesome, and it's rare to find a new place.
Yeah, but with that said, like if you're getting married in a super dark place, like the Detroit Science Center planetarium, you want to make sure you hire someone that knows how to light dark places properly.
That is an
so that's more
essential
important than
key.
have you worked at my venue. You know?
I'm glad she brought that up because I've had
Perfect.
photographers, the lighting piece, right? Because I've had photographers that are like, oh my God, the lighting's so bad. And you're thinking, well, yeah, because all you have is the flash on top of your camera. Like, where's the other lights? If it was Marcy or Kelly, they'd have 2 or 3 of them bouncing them off ceilings and walls.
I think that's one of the biggest pieces when you're looking for a photographer that sets pros apart from people who are learning or who specialize in natural lighting. Think of the number of wonderful historic churches that Detroit has. They are dark, pretty caves.
Super dark.
Super dark. They literally have one plug in the
Yeah.
entire church.
Mm-hmm.
Reception halls that often don't have windows, or who have a wall of windows, but when the sun goes down, oops.
Yeah.
You can't use your little flash in the Colony Club with their like 25-foot ceilings.
Right.
Not a thing. So to be able to see when you're looking in the reception halls, go to the reception hall pictures. Ask to see reception hall pictures. Because you will, right then, that's what differentiates us. Can we light anything, anywhere? And a lot of them are these beautiful, pretty, they have wonderful mood. They picked them for the ambiance. Can a photographer really, celebrate that ambiance and get amazing photos in a dark room?
Okay, now this makes me think of another thing that I've seen live in action. Every weekend I see it. Some photographers, bride and groom are sharing in their first dance together as husband and wife. Some photographers are within 2 feet of them, bam, 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 taking shots. Other won't even step on the dance floor. They get as far back as they can. Where are you guys at on that? What do you think? Is it a combination of both? Sometimes you need to do one, not the other, or do you always, is there a certain rule?
I'm not on the dance floor typically, unless it's huge dance floor night, but I prefer to be off, in a way, but
But again, you're using off-camera lighting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have to get close.
I think
we have the right
close,
gear.
Yeah, if they're close, it's probably because that's their only way to light them.
Yeah.
Because they need their flash only travels in a big dark room about as far as I'm standing away from you.
So
now.
do you think as photographers you should say, hey, do you shoot on the floor or within 20 feet? Or, you know what I mean? Like, do you think that's an important question or not? Because I can tell you right now, I think some brides and grooms would be bothered when the person's right up on them during their main dance. But I don't know. I mean, I'm not a photographer.
Thing.
Yeah.
I don't think it's, are you on the dance floor? You ask, can you do off-camera lighting?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, off-camera
How
lighting.
are you lighting things? Because
So you think that's an important question?
It
How
is.
are you lighting things?
Well, and
Off-camera
explain that
lighting.
to your photographer as well. I prefer you to stand back a little bit while you're working with us, because
Right.
I do know some very well-equipped professional photographers, but they are in your face, buddy. So it is very important. It's just the way they work. So it's important to ask your photographer, are you in my face or not?
That's a
and
good
tell
one.
them
Are
what
you an
expect.
in my face kind of photographer?
Set
or not?
your expectations
Okay.
and let them know. Stay in the corner or hire Marcy.
no.
She legitimately is she is a fly on the wall. I mean, and she's amazing. I have her.
Stealthy. She's like ninja photographer. All right.
But I think before you go to that, and I know you want to get through the list, I think, Kelly, that's an excellent point.
Yeah.
Because the stylistic changes that are going on in the industry in the last probably even 5 years, I don't know if this is an effect of social media or the Kardashians or what the heck has changed the industry, but there's much more of a paparazzi feel that's going along with this, where more is more. And
It's not always true.
the couple has hired teams to descend on them, and they are, they come with 2 to 4 still photographers and then a whole team of videographers. And it is
with cranes, and it's crazy.
It's crazy, and it's like watching a paparazzi event. And so, stylistically, if you're hiring more than 2 photographers, even with 2 photographers, one's got to go close, one's got to go farther away.
Yeah.
someone's going to be close to you. And so to realize, people are like, oh, the more photographers the merrier, the more videographers the merrier. Mm-hmm. They are going to very quickly take over. People are going to be watching them
yes. Not you. Yeah.
And so this, if that's what you want, go for it. Just know what you're kind of getting into. And I think a lot of times they're a little shell shocked on their wedding day to realize that 5 videographers are not invisible.
Right.
No.
Everywhere.
And they're going to be blocking people's views, during speeches and stuff.
And they're going to be in all your pictures.
Yes. So it's really important to you want to experience your wedding, while you're there. I think that's a good.
Will you follow a shot list or do you prefer free reign? Just a quick answer on that one. Yeah.
The only shot list that I will use is a family formal list. Other than that, I get what I know
free
to
reign.
get. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pretty much free reign unless there's something I would not know about. For example, you happen to have great grandma's handkerchief, that you pinned under your dress. It's an important thing. It's almost invisible. If you didn't tell me it wasn't there, I wouldn't know it.
Yeah.
If it happens in my face, it's definitely being shot.
No, you want to communicate that, but to give someone like a checklist, I would spend more time looking down than
Absolutely.
up. We need to look up.
Yeah.
Okay. Question: what, if any, restrictions are there for me as a bride or groom as it relates to sharing photos online, making copies? Will I own the copyrights? Will you own the copyrights? Succinctly.
She's probably more, as a professional photojournalist, you know more. We all know about copyrights, but...
Yeah, to me, you're paying me, you're not paying me, you're paying me to shoot. You're paying for my professionalism and my experience. You can do whatever the heck you want. And that's become much more of when I started shooting weddings a long time ago, it was a Ziploc baggie of film, bye-bye, have fun.
Right.
When we switched to digital, I still had that. You're paying me not to buy pictures from me. You're paying me for the experience.
But you retain copyright, so you can use them on your website.
Absolutely. So it's a shared thing.
Right, it's shared. Yeah.
And I say my only line is, if you're going to sell them, don't. Share them with whoever you want, but I have seen them sometimes pictures show up awkwardly in strange places that I'm really kind of surprised they made themselves onto plates in China or Turkey.
No.
And I've had that happen, but I think those are people who stole those pictures
off
my website.
Yeah. No, with me, it's a shared copyright, but I will not, I retain the copyright, so I can use it on my website if I want to enter a contest.
Right. So it's a two-way deal. It's like I get rights, but so do you.
Yeah, but my clients can't give them to a venue. They can't give them to, and unfortunately, they can't give them to a DJ. I'm happy to give them to a DJ or to the venues, but I want to be the one to actually give them, over for commercial use, just for a variety of reasons. But it's important to know what you can and can't do with your pictures.
All right, so that's an important question. You think? Yes? No?
Yeah,
because what if you find out later that you can't? What do you mean I can't?
Well, right? How are we ever really going to know, though? There's some photographers say you cannot edit my picture. I'm not going to know in 10 years if you made my color picture black and white. What am I going to do? I just don't want you to sell the pictures.
Got it.
Yeah,
pretty much.
All right, so the next question. As a wedding DJ, I've seen a trend, and honestly, I find it annoying. And it's really simple. We go to weddings. We dress up. That's what we do at weddings. When we go to this celebration thing we call weddings in America, we go and we dress up. At least we do in Metro Detroit. and I'm not actually passing judgment. I really don't care if a guest shows up, because I've done weddings where they show up in baseball hats and jeans. I've done them up in some rural areas.
Yeah, backyard weddings too.
And I'm totally cool with that. I'm like, good for you. Really. But when we go to some formal country club, banquet hall, whatever, bride's dressed to the T, groom's dressed to, everybody's all dressed real nice. And then in comes a photographer or an entourage of photographers, 2, 3, 4 of them, and I'm seeing this more and more.
Yeah.
And I think that as I say sometimes when I go to some of these venues that I go to, that there's a fine line between rustic and ghetto. Like, I look at some of the way they're dressed and their torn up jeans, t-shirts. Like, really, you went out of your way to wear a t-shirt?
Yeah.
And it's got like holes and it's all grungy looking. What's up with that? Do you think that's an important question to ask? What do you wear to my wedding?
Do you dress professionally?
Yeah.
I wouldn't want, when I very first started on my own and I was hiring second shooters, I didn't know that it was important to have, to send them information on how to dress. I had someone show up with flip-flops. To me, they were flip-flops. They called them sandals, but you cannot, I sent them home because you cannot flipping and flopping around at a wedding I'm working. I mean, like
Yes.
I'm not wearing a suit because I have to work, but I'm wearing butt pants and, you know.
And I think that's important. The photographer's got to be comfortable. I mean, me as a DJ, I'm mostly standing there.
And they can't be wearing sweatpants either.
Right, but not sweatpants. But I mean, yeah, but I mean, I see some of them and I think to myself, really, dude, like you totally stand out.
Yeah.
Where there's 150 people in this room and you two are dressed like, you know, you just got out of Woodstock.
I'm not sure, but Marcy, I remember 10 years ago, and this is so funny. She asked, "What are your wedding colors?" I remember this. I don't. She said because I'd like to try to find a top in that color. So, I think you did? Did you?
I still try and match as best as I can, but
That's
the color
great.
schemes have gotten a little interesting to the point
Yeah.
where, and people are putting, you know, melon and lime green together, and I'm not going to be able to quite do that.
Yeah.
But it's either
Don't do
all
that.
black so I can be invisible.
Okay.
I used to actually wear dresses so I can match the bridal party.
I thought you did wear dresses. I've seen you wear.
Always did until a couple of years ago. I had too many of my dresses fly up
Yeah,
into
yeah,
my
yeah,
face,
yeah,
and I'm
yeah.
flashing people, and I'm sorry, but I'm over that. So now I
So
say
that is an important question. Just say, hey, what do you wear?
I would just ask them to please dress respectfully.
Yeah. Or
And
just tell them.
I never see a DJ in ripped up junk.
No.
They always are usually
They look sharp.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're sharp.
How long after an event should people expect proofs, albums, etc.? Important question or not?
I think so.
Yeah, you should know when you're getting, you know,
Okay.
are you still quick?
I say 2 weeks. It's usually one.
Okay.
I'm not 2 weeks. I am, contractually, I'm actually 6 to 12 weeks. On average, I usually turn them around between 6 and 8, though.
Okay. Well, and then just, you know, you got to understand people's lifestyles too. Like Marcy's getting close to being an empty nester, or you are.
Exactly. I am
Right?
an empty nester.
And Kelly's still got kids at home, one with a flu or something going on. I mean, so
Yeah,
people.
no, I only work in the office. I don't work at home.
Exactly.
You know,
And
so
that's a
there's,
huge difference.
Right, right.
That's
So
a
just,
huge
you know,
difference.
but
Absolutely, I agree.
you just got to be comfortable with whatever that turnaround
And
time
know
is.
what your turnaround time
Right,
is.
and the expectation, again, on reviews, if somebody blows their deadline,
Yeah.
you're going to read about that.
You
in
are
everything.
going to read about that, yes.
All right, brides and grooms, you need to understand this next question, where it comes from. I see it unfold in front of me on a regular basis, and here's the question. Any opinion around the sometimes taxing interplay between videographers and photographers? Like, is this a conversation a bride needs to say, like, you know, to the video crew, like, hey guys, photographers take precedent here. They're my most important thing. You guys are secondary. Like, is that even something somebody needs to know? Because I see some of these video guys will walk right in front of a...
Yeah.
Because what's happened is photography may still be top shelf, and still is. I mean, like, that's the more common thing that I see. And whereas videographers, sometimes they'll hire somebody for a few $100. I mean, they'll go to Craig because they just want some footage. They don't care if it's great. They're not going high end. And you can be at a really nice place, and they'll do that still. They'll have high end photography, DJ, but then the video guy, like, yeah, I got him off Craigslist for $500.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so they don't always know the rules, you know, or the etiquette. So is that an important question or not?
Dan, it's a really loaded question, because there's actually some video teams that are, you know, they do these cinematic productions, so they bring in a lot of equipment. So or the Craigslist guy who only has a real short lens, so he has to get in people's faces. I think the more important, when I always ask my clients, have you hired a videographer? Who did you hire? Because I have a list of people that I've had, you know, it's not a long list of people that have, but there's been some teams that were really intrusive to my clients. But what I do vow to my clients is I say, if you have like a cinematic team, you know, you do need to provide a little bit of time, you know, for their production and for your pictures too. You know, most of the time they need some time too, but if I feel that their day is like we'll do first looks, for example. I'll have video teams that will okay, cut. You know, they'll say cut. You know, when my client's having a moment, it's crazy. It's like, what are you doing? Like, let them have. I mean, have you? It's insane.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what is, you know? So and there was actually a couple points where I said to one of my brides, I said, you know, I think that I can sense that you didn't understand they were going to be cutting every cut.
Cut that moment.
Yeah, so I told
Do
her,
it again.
I said, it's okay to tell them to back off a little bit. You know, I can do it, but you may need, you know. So it's important to understand the video.
Yeah, so I guess if you have a bigger crew, you might be more inclined to want to say, hey guys, since I know 3 or 4 of you coming, what's your style? Are you going to be in my face? Can we tell you to back off?
3 or 4 people, someone's going to be in your face.
Yeah,
I think Marcy said it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, so you have to know that, you know, and
Yeah, and I think only once have I ever had a couple that very clearly having their wedding film shot with the drones
Yes.
drowning out the ceremony.
Yes.
And that was clearly a top priority for them. And I had a feeling that I was the add-on. All the other weddings, it's the exact opposite.
Right.
And you're right, Dan, it wouldn't hurt for either the couple to say, I don't think you could say to a videographer, you're not that important today.
No, yeah, I mean, but you do have to prioritize.
And most of them, honestly, will come up and say, I've had many videographers come up and say, hey, I'm second banana.
Mm-hmm.
I know that the film is the most important thing for them. And they are so good about backing off. And I would say that's true in probably the majority of the cases. But you're right, every once in a while there'll be somebody who doesn't quite get that.
Yeah, could be a friend of the family. I always, in fact, that's my question now. Friend of the family video, doing video, or is it a pro? Because so often now, friend of the family, because people aren't making that top priority. And I actually thought it'd go the other direction. 10 years ago, if you had said to me, what's going to be more important, still or video, I would have said video all day long. Because I would have thought, just take the frames per second, boom, 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 they get 60 frames. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would have thought, it'll be crazy. It'll all be high def. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
But it's,
it may go that way.
Yeah, no, but I mean, if they're in the way and in your pictures, you know, we're not photoshopping them out. So it's important to know that. I mean, I'll intervene sometimes, say, I need you to move for, you know, but it is important to know.
And you guys said something, I wanted to underscore this so people can get under the hood of your lives as photographers. You said for every hour you shoot, post-production is how long?
For me, it's about 4 hours.
I haven't timed it like that. But
okay, but I mean, 3 to 4 hours, 5 hours, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, there's for every wedding, I mean, if I were to sit down and, you know, it would be a good week of my, you know.
Right. And that's what I think.
That's,
like
people
if all
always
you
say,
gave it, yeah.
why does it cost so much for one day's work, for 8 hours? I'm like, no, that's actually like a 40-hour week.
Yeah.
Right.
So, you know, it's not one day.
Yeah.
You're paying for a 40-hour week, pretty much, per wedding. And videographers will often say it's more like a 60-hour
video,
week.
it's crazy.
Yeah, right. So they come and shoot an 8-hour day during a wedding, a videographer or a photographer, but yet they go home or back to their office, whatever, and it's just exponential. I mean, every hour you guys shoot is another, 2, 3, 4, depends on who you are, right? In Marcy's case, it's about 4 hours. Kelly's a little not dead sure, but
I'm not sure, but you know.
But so it's a lot of extra work.
It's not an 8-hour day. It's
people need to know that I mean, it'd be different. Like Marcy said back in the day with a film, he said, "There you go,
bye-bye,
done, no post editing." But now it's all about what do you do afterwards. So we're getting close to the end. I had a question for you, which was, what have I missed that you think brides and grooms should know when they hire? I mean, do you think we've covered it all? I had some notes here. Kelly had sent to me, retouching, final product. Yeah, we covered all that.
I think we went through that.
Insurance. You said, you know, should people know that we're insured or not?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah, good question to ask. Okay.
I think the most important thing that I'd like to, I think that brides need to, and this isn't, you actually don't even need to deal with this when you're hiring someone, but you really need to pay attention to your timeline and making sure that if you're hiring like a photographer that specializes in stylistic, you know, they're stylizing editorial, well, I hate the word editorial, but they're more stylizing. They're going to need more time to light you and in time for equipment and stuff like that. So it's really important, you know, to understand that the type of photographer may require more time too, you know, and I run into that a lot with clients. I want to go to 10 different locations, you know, and which is great, but I have to light you, you know, I have to park, I have gear.
Right. It sounds real simple, but I got to redo this whole thing.
So it's just important because things can fall behind, and then you get to your reception, and you know, all of a sudden we're late for the reception, then dinner's running behind, and it's 8 o'clock, you know, and then Dan, you're like, you know, I want that extra half an hour. So it is important to pay attention to your photographer will tell you what they need. Listen to them. So
that's true.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think just to do some really good background checking, to pay attention to the portfolio. Do you see like the same couple showing up in a lot of the portfolio shots? that means they haven't done a lot of weddings. If they say they are a natural lighting photographer,
Yeah.
can they, if that's a choice, that's fine. If it means because they can't use other lighting styles because they have no idea how to artificially light things, that should be a big red flag.
Yeah, you can't hire them.
If they say, for example, there's a lot of people who do it on the weekends. That's great, but again, how often do they do this? Because the more you do it, the better you are. And it's a little bit like running a marathon. You know, you can't just kind of do it every once in a while and expect that you can do a marathon. So you need to be able to do it regularly and get into that rhythm
Reps.
and get into
It's about
that.
reps.
It's about reps, and it's also about just making that your comfort zone so that whatever, every day has their own little ups and downs, but so that somebody who, it's not, you're not just hiring a wedding photographer, you're also, we're the timekeepers, we're in charge of keeping
Yes.
people happy.
Yes.
We're in charge of rounding up people in a very nice way. We need to be able to take command of, you know, a room of people. And we also need to be able to sit back and let things happen. So how spontaneous can we be? What's their personality like? You know, are they gonna be, you know, I have a friend who's a fantastic shooter, but he really doesn't like people. And you know what? I can't even imagine him in a wedding setting. He always talks about how much he dislikes weddings. And I always think, life's short. Why are you doing them then?
Yeah.
You know, this has to be something you like. I think they're cool. I think it's fun. Every wedding's different. I love that unpredictability of that. I find a lot of joy in that. And I love what I do. So ask the photographer why they're doing this.
Yeah. Why? That's a great question.
That is a good question. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Find out though, what is it? The Simon Sinek. I don't know if either of you know who he is, but big marketing guy on YouTube, and he'd always said is like it's about the why. Like find out the why. If you can find out the why, you know what motivates and inspires them to do what they do. I know for me as a DJ, at times I loathe it, but what I loathe is the stress of making 150, 200, 300 people get up and dance. Knowing I'm responsible for that come this Saturday. That's the part I don't like. But when I get there, I'm like in it and I get all excited. Like that's the part I love. I love that.
Problem solving.
Yeah,
piece.
yeah.
And you do.
Yeah,
You don't think of
yeah.
a DJ as a problem solver, but you are. And to be able to read a room really well and even be able to forecast sort of what's coming and going depending on your
Yeah.
crowd. I hear you talk about this all the time.
Yeah.
You know, what kind of a crowd are they going to be? Because sometimes how they are during dinner, well, often it has nothing to do with who's really going to be on that dance floor. And to be able to make those adjustments, Dan, you always have people out there dancing.
Yeah.
I have never seen you, and I know you
He makes
sweat
me
it.
want to dance.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
I gotta work.
Yeah, exactly. That's the hard part is doing the slow
Yeah.
exposure.
Well, you know,
Yeah.
you know what's neat is the similarities between photography and the DJ side, which I think everything's kind of the same. You know, the more you know about one thing, the more you know about everything. That's kind of monkish stuff, but is that I'll say to the photographer a lot of time, like, hey, how's the bridal party?
Yeah.
Because she's been with him for 3, 4, or he 4 or 5 hours before I have, and they'll go, they're a lot of fun, or kind of dry. And so I don't like to let that rule my evening or predict or prescribe what I'm going to play or do, but it will influence some of my thoughts around the evening in general. Like, how am I going to attack this musically? You know. So I hope that this has been great for you. I know it's been kind of long, but look, it's going to solve a lot of problems for you because we answered a lot of questions about what you need to know when you go to hire a professional photographer. So check out marcycurtis.com, marcicurtis.com, and kellysaunders.com, KELLIESAUNDERS.com, right?
Yes.
Yes.
2 thumbs up.
All right, thanks. Thanks so much. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.